There's a tower made of glass, and it's full of cars. You've probably seen one. They sit right off the highway, lit up at night like a vending machine built for giants. Floor after floor of shiny used cars stacked behind glass, waiting. And the whole thing is designed to make you smile. You put in a token, a car comes down on a little platform, and it feels less like signing for a loan and more like winning a prize. So picture a man walking in on a Saturday morning. Nothing fancy. He works. He's tired. His last car finally died on him, and he needs a way to get to the job that keeps all of it running. He's nervous because his credit isn't good. He knows the number. He's been turned down before, and there's a particular kind of shame in that. Standing at a counter while someone quietly decides you're not worth the risk. But not here. Here, they barely ask. He tells them what he makes, and nobody really checks. A few minutes on a screen, a few clicks, and then the word he wasn't expecting to hear. Approved. The token drops. The car comes down the glass tower like a gift from the sky. And he drives off that lot feeling something he hasn't felt in a long time. Like the system finally said yes to him. Like maybe things are turning around. And I want you to hold on to that feeling, because it's real, and it matters, and he earned the right to feel it. But here's what he doesn't know. Before he even reached the exit of that parking lot, before the smell of the new car had worn off, the loan he just signed was already gone, already sold, already sliced into pieces and bundled up with thousands of other people's debts and shipped off to investors on the other side of the country. He thinks he just bought a car. He didn't. The car was the bait. The thing that got bought and sold that morning wasn't the car. It was him. His signature. His promise to pay. That was the product. And he was never the customer. He was the raw material. I know how that sounds. Stay with me, because this isn't a story about one man and one car. It's about how a used car lot quietly turned into one of the largest debt machines in the country. And how, if you've ever financed anything, a piece of your life is probably riding around in that same machine right now, and you never felt it leave. To see how that works, we're not going to follow the car. We're going to follow the loan.
So let's follow it. That one loan. The moment he signed, something happened that he'll never see and was never meant to. His signature stopped being about him. It became a thing, an asset, a small, predictable stream of monthly payments that somebody, somewhere, would very much like to own. Because here's the truth the glass tower is built to hide. The company that sold him the car doesn't actually want to keep his loan. Think about that for a second. It sounds backwards. You'd assume a company that lends you money wants you to pay it back over the years, slowly, with interest. That's how the corner bank used to work. But this isn't that. This company has a different plan for his loan. And the plan starts almost the instant the ink is dry. They take his loan, his promise to pay, and they gather it up with thousands of others just like it. People he'll never meet. A nurse 2 states over. a kid who just turned 20, a man who fixes air conditioners in the summer heat. All of them walked into a glass tower. All of them said yes. All of them drove off feeling chosen. And now all of their promises are swept into one big pile. That pile gets a name and paperwork and a rating. And then it gets cut, not into equal pieces, but into layers. The safe layer on top for the careful investors who want a small, quiet return. The risky layer on the bottom for the ones who'll gamble on a bigger payoff. And every layer gets sold to pension funds, to hedge funds, to investors who will never see a single one of those cars, or those faces, or that man on his Saturday morning. They're not buying cars. They're buying the payments. They're buying the debt. That thing has a name. It's called securitization. And I know that's a cold, heavy word. So let me make it simple. Because the simple version is the whole game. You take the debts of thousands of ordinary people, you bundle them, you slice them, and you sell the slices to the rich, who collect the payments those ordinary people make, month after month, for years. Now here's the question that unlocks everything. If the company sells the loan almost immediately, if they don't keep it, if the risk becomes somebody else's problem the moment he drives away, then why would they ever say no to him? They wouldn't. Why would they? The old bank was careful because the old bank was stuck with you. If you didn't pay, the bank bled. So the bank checked. The bank asked hard questions. The bank sometimes said no. And the no was the whole point. It meant somebody was measuring the risk. But when you sell the loan the same week you make it, the risk was never really yours. So you stop asking hard questions. You stop saying no. You say yes to almost everyone. Because every yes is another payment stream you can bundle and sell. The person isn't the point. The volume is the point. That's why nobody checked what he made. That's why the shame he braced for never came. It wasn't kindness. It was appetite. And a machine like this, one that runs on volume, on more, on yes, it has one weakness, one quiet thing it depends on completely. It only works as long as someone on the other end keeps buying the slices. Hold that, because that's the crack in the whole thing. So the loan gets sold. And with the money from that sale, the company does the only thing that keeps it alive. It makes another loan. And then it sells that one too. And with that money, it makes another. And it sells that over and over, quarter after quarter, without stopping, without slowing down, without ever being allowed to catch its breath. This is a part almost nobody understands, and it's a part that explains everything. So let me slow down and say it plainly. This company does not really run on selling cars. It runs on a loop. Make a loan, sell the loan. Use the cash to make another loan, sell that one. Use the cash again, round and round. People in finance have a name for a wheel like this that spins itself faster and faster. They call it a flywheel. And the flywheel is beautiful when it's spinning. It looks like growth. It looks like a company on fire, in the good way. More cars, more customers, more revenue. a stock chart climbing to the sky. For a while it looked like one of the great comeback stories in America. But look closer at the wheel, and you'll see the thing they'd rather you didn't. The wheel cannot stop, because the whole thing depends on that last step, selling the loan. If the company can't sell the loans, it doesn't have the cash to make new ones. And if it can't make new ones, there are no cars going out the door. No revenue, no growth. The flywheel doesn't slow down gently. It seizes. And who does it depend on to keep spinning? The investors, the ones buying the slices. Remember the risky layer at the bottom of the pile, the deep, dangerous slice. Somebody has to buy that every single time, or the whole bundle can't be sold. And the wheel jams. So this company, the one that looks like a shiny car store, is actually holding its breath every quarter, hoping the buyers show up again, hoping nobody on the other end looks too hard at whose promises are really in that pile. Now put a number on it so you feel the weight. This company has bundled and issued more than $15 billion of these debt packages. 15 billion. That is not a car lot. That is a factory. A factory whose raw material is the monthly promise of a nurse, a 20-year-old kid, a man who fixes air conditioners, a man on the Saturday morning who just wanted to get to work. And this is where it stops being a story about them and quietly becomes a story about you. Because if you have ever financed a car, or a couch, or a phone, or anything really, there is a good chance your promise is sitting in a pile, just like that one, sliced and sold to someone you will never meet, earning them a little more every month when you pay. You did the responsible thing. You made your payments, and somewhere that made someone richer in a way you were never shown. You felt like a customer. On the other side of the glass, you were inventory. A wheel like this doesn't build itself. Somebody designed it. Somebody understood deeply how to turn ordinary people's promises into something the rich would line up to buy. And the man who understood it best had done it before, a long time ago, under a different name, in a story most people have completely forgotten. His name is Ernie Garcia. Not the one who runs the company today. His son runs that. I mean the father, the man most people have never heard of, standing quietly behind the whole thing, holding most of the votes, pulling most of the weight. To understand the machine, you have to understand him. And to understand him, you have to go back a long way. Because this isn't the first empire he built, and it isn't the first time his name showed up next to the word fraud. Rewind to 1990. Garcia is a young man in Arizona, ambitious, hungry, in a hurry. And he gets pulled into one of the biggest financial scandals of that era. The collapse of a savings and loan, a wreck that helped define what financial disaster looked like for a generation. When the dust settled, Garcia pleaded guilty to a felony, bank fraud. He got probation. He filed for bankruptcy. By any normal reading of a life, that's the end of the story. That's the part where a man disappears. He didn't disappear. He did something most people never manage. He got up. He bought the scraps of a failing rent-a-car business, and out of those scraps, he built something new. A company that sold used cars to people the regular banks wouldn't touch. People with bad credit. People who'd been told no. He built an entire fortune on the word yes, aimed at the people most starved to hear it. And it worked. It worked so well that his son grew up inside it,
learned the business at his father's side, and then took the idea online. Glass towers, vending machines, a car delivered to your door. The son built the company you know. The father built the one you don't. And to this day, the two of them are wound together so tightly it's hard to see where one ends and the other begins. Here's the strange part, the detail that tells you everything. The father controls this company. Most of the voting power runs through him. And yet, because of that old felony, he is legally barred from holding an official job at a company listed on the stock exchange. So he doesn't have one. No title, no formal seat. His name isn't on the org chart. Sit with that. The man with the most control over one of the biggest debt machines in the country is, on paper, not even there. He runs an empire from a room with no nameplate on the door. Now, I have to be careful and honest with you here, because this is exactly where a lazy story would get reckless. The father's felony is real, and it's from a long time ago. The son has no such record, none. And the serious accusations against the company today, the claims that it inflated its numbers and buried its risks, those come mostly from short sellers. And a short seller is someone who has placed a bet that the stock will fall. They profit if you believe them. The company denies all of it, calls it misleading, and says it's cooperating with regulators. Nothing has been proven in a courtroom. Hold both of those things at once, honestly, because both are true. But you don't need the accusations to feel the weight of what's already on the record. A man who built one fortune, lost it to fraud, and built a second one on the exact same fuel, lending to the people the system already gave up on. Which raises a question that has nothing to do with any courtroom. A quieter question, a harder one. What does a son actually inherit from a father like that?
So far, we've only watched the wheel spin one way. The happy way. Loans go out, cars go out, money comes in. But every wheel turns two directions, and we haven't looked at the other one yet. The other direction is what happens when the man from that Saturday morning can't pay. And a lot of them can't. That's not cruelty, it's arithmetic. When you say yes to almost everyone, when you barely check what a person makes, you are guaranteed to hand car loans to people who are one bad month away from drowning. A hospital bill, a cut in hours, a transmission that goes on the wrong week, and suddenly the payment that felt like a fresh start becomes a thing pulling them under. So the payments stop. And when they stop, the car doesn't just sit there. Somebody comes for it. There's a whole quiet economy most people never see. The tow trucks, the repo lots, the auctions, the yards full of cars taken back from people who stood in a glass tower not long ago and felt, for one bright minute, like the system had finally said yes. The same machine that delivered the car like a prize sends someone in the dark to take it away. And here's the part that should make you sit up. Somebody makes money on that too. The repossession isn't the system failing. For someone, it's the system working. And one more thing, because I promised you honesty and this matters. A former insider looked at all of this, the loose lending, the bundling, the slicing, the selling, and said out loud that it reminded him of the mortgage packages from the early 2000s. The ones that ended in 2008. I'm not telling you this is that. I'm telling you someone who was inside the room heard the echo. Make of that what you will. And look, if you've stayed with me this far, into the part of the story nobody puts on a thumbnail, let me just say it plainly. Subscribe, come back and spend time with this channel, because you're clearly not someone who wants the easy version. Most people want to be told who the villain is in 10 seconds, so they can feel something and move on. You're still here, in the grey part, the honest part, where it's harder to say who's guilty and easier to see how the whole thing actually works. That's the whole reason this channel exists. So stay. Now, back to that echo, because it leads somewhere. Everyone wants to argue about whether this company is a fraud. The short sellers say yes and profit if you agree. The company says no, and it's still standing, still growing, still selling cars off that glass tower this very morning. That fight will get settled by regulators and courtrooms. Not by me, and not by a thumbnail. But I think the fight over that word, fraud or not fraud, is hiding the more interesting question, the one underneath. Because whatever a courtroom eventually decides, one thing is already true and already on the record. A father built this way of seeing the world, and a son grew up inside it. So the real question was never whether it's legal. The real question is what got passed down. What does a son inherit from a father? We always answer that question with things: money, a house, a business, a name on a building. And sure, all of that gets handed down. But that's not the real inheritance. That was never the real inheritance. What a father actually passes down is quieter than money, and it goes deeper. It's a way of seeing, a way of looking at risk and deciding its opportunity, a way of looking at a rule and seeing a thing to be worked around instead of obeyed, a way of looking at a person who's desperate for a yes and understanding, before anyone else does, exactly how much that yes is worth. You can't put that in a will, but it gets handed down anyway. At the dinner table, in the office after hours, in 10,000 small moments, a boy spends watching how his father moves through the world, learning what his father flinches at and what his father never does. The father lost everything once to fraud and built it all back on lending to the people the system gave up on. The son grew up inside that second empire, learned it from the ground up, and then made it bigger, shinier, faster than his father ever could. Glass towers, a car dropped into your hands like a gift. I'm not here to tell you the son is his father. He isn't. He carries no record of his own, and the accusations against his company are still just that. Accusations. Denied, unproven, sold to you in part by people betting on the fall. That's the honest truth, and I'll stand on it. But you don't need a verdict to see the shape of the thing. Some inheritances don't show up in a courtroom. They show up in a business model, in who you're willing to say yes to, and what you do with their promise the moment they drive away. Now go back to that Saturday morning, back to the glass tower and the man who walked in tired and walked out feeling chosen. He's still out there, still making his payments most likely, still proud of the car, still telling himself the system finally came through for him. He never learned that his loan left him before he left the lot. He'll never meet the investor 2,000 miles away, who earns a little every time he pays on time. He still believes he bought a car that morning. And in a way, that belief is the most valuable product the whole machine ever made. Not the car, not the loan, the feeling, the bright, clean feeling of being told yes, wrapped around a thing that was never really about him at all. He thinks he got the car. The machine knows better. I'm not going to tell you how to feel about that. You felt it building since the first minute. Just 3 things before I let you go. Follow this channel. There are more machines like this one. More bright, friendly-looking things with something heavier humming underneath. And we're going to keep walking straight into them, one at a time. Send this to 5 people. 5. Especially the ones about to walk into a glass tower, feeling like they finally got lucky. And down in the comments, tell me something true, not a hot take, the truth. When was the last time you felt like the customer and later wondered if you were the product? And tell me what you want us to take apart next. The token drops, the car comes down, and somewhere, quietly, someone you'll never meet just got a little richer.